Hey, this party is awesome.
I know, right? The music's great.
You're at a party, the conversation's flowing, then suddenly, silence. That awful, suffocating silence where you're desperately scanning your brain for literally anything to say. Your mind goes completely blank. You panic. You blurt out, "So, weather's crazy, huh?" And you die inside a little. Look, we've all been there. That moment where the conversation just stops. And you're standing there like a malfunctioning robot trying to remember how human communication works. But here's the thing. People who always seem to have something interesting to say aren't necessarily smarter or more interesting than you. They've just learned a few tricks that keep conversations flowing naturally. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how to never run out things to say. Well, mostly never. I mean, sometimes silence is good. But you'll know the difference. So let's start with where you are right now. You probably have a few go-to conversation topics that you're comfortable with. Maybe you can talk about your job, your hobbies, that one funny thing that happened last week. And as long as the conversation stays in that zone, you're golden. The problem is, conversations don't stay in one place. They move. Someone mentions something you know nothing about. Or worse, you run through your entire mental inventory of topics in the first 5 minutes, and now you're sitting there for another 20 minutes of awkward small talk. And here's what usually happens. You start overthinking. Is this interesting? Am I talking too much? Why aren't they saying anything? Should I ask another question? Wait, did I already ask that? Your brain becomes your worst enemy. I once sat next to a guy on a 6-hour flight. 6 hours. We exhausted, "Where are you from?" and "What do you do?" in literally 10 minutes. And then we both just sat there. For the next 5 hours and 50 minutes, we became experts in staring at our phones and pretending to be deeply invested in the safety card. At one point, we both reached for the armrest at the same time, made eye contact, and I swear I saw the same thought in both our heads. Please, someone, give me something to say. We couldn't. It was tragic. That flight taught me something. Running out of things to say isn't just awkward, it's exhausting. So, what's actually happening when you run out of things to say? It's not that there's nothing to talk about. The world is full of interesting stuff. The issue is that you're treating conversation like a quiz show where you need to have the perfect answer ready. You're waiting for someone to say something that triggers one of your pre-approved topics. And when that doesn't happen, you freeze. You're being reactive instead of curious. What you're missing is a system, not a script, because that's weird and robotic, but a way of thinking about conversations that makes them flow naturally, no matter who you're talking to or what they bring up. All right, here's the actual technique, and it's simpler than you think. It comes down to 3 core principles: follow the thread, branch out, and loop back. Follow the thread. Every time someone says something, they're giving you a thread to pull on. They mentioned they went to Colorado last weekend. That's not just one topic. That's like 5 topics hiding in one sentence. You could ask about Colorado specifically, why they chose to go there, what they did, who they went with, whether they travel often. Each answer they give creates more threads. The conversation becomes a web instead of a straight line. Most people treat conversations like tennis. Whack, hit it back. Someone says something, you respond, then you wait for them to say something else. But good conversationalists treat it more like jazz. You riff off what the other person said, add your own flavor, then see where they take it. Here's what this looks like in practice. Them. Yeah, I just got back from Colorado. Bad response. Cool. Conversation dies. Better response. Oh, nice. What took you out there? Them. Just some hiking. Needed to get away. You. I feel that. What trail did you do? See? Each response opens another door. You're not interrogating them. You're genuinely curious about the details, and people love talking about things when someone's actually interested. Branch out. This is where you add your own experience. But here's the key. You're not hijacking the conversation. You're building a bridge. They mention hiking in Colorado. You mentioned that time you went hiking and got absolutely destroyed by a trail that was listed as moderate difficulty, but was clearly designed by someone who hated people. Now you're both sharing stories, and the conversation has energy. Loop back. This is the secret weapon nobody talks about. When a conversation starts to slow down, loop back to something they mentioned earlier. Wait, you mentioned earlier that you needed to get away. Everything good? This shows you were actually listening, and it opens up a potentially deeper conversation. Plus, people are usually surprised and impressed when you remember details they mentioned 20 minutes ago. Now, let's be real, this isn't always going to work perfectly. You're going to run into some challenges. Challenge 1, the one-word responder. You ask a question, they say yeah or nah, and then just stare at you. This person is not helping at all. Here's the truth. Some people are just bad at conversations, and that's okay. You can't force someone to engage. But what you can do is try a couple of different threads. If none of them work, you've done your part. Accept the silence and don't beat yourself up about it. There's also the opposite problem, the person who talks so much that you can't get a word in. You ask how their weekend was, and suddenly you're getting a 40-minute breakdown of their entire family history, their dietary restrictions, and their thoughts on geopolitical tensions. In that case, congratulations. You've solved the problem of running out of things to say by simply not talking. Just nod occasionally and accept your fate. Challenge 2, talking to someone with zero overlapping interests. This is tough. They're really into fantasy football. You think a quarterback is a refund. They love anime. You've never watched a single episode of anything. The hack here? Ask them to explain it like you're 5. People love being the expert. I've never really understood football. What makes it so interesting to you? Boom. They'll talk for 10 minutes and you've learned something new. Here's what shifts when you start using this approach. Conversations stop feeling like work. You're no longer standing there with a mental list of topics, praying one of them will be relevant. You're genuinely curious about what the other person is saying, and that curiosity naturally generates questions and comments. And here's the really cool part. People start to enjoy talking to you more because you're making them feel heard. You're not just waiting for your turn to talk. You're actually engaged in what they're saying. Most people spend conversations half listening while planning what they're going to say next. When you stop doing that and just listen and respond naturally, you stand out. So let's go back to where we started. You're at a party. The conversation's flowing. And then there's a pause. But this time, you don't panic. You remember something they mentioned 5 minutes ago and loop back to it. Or you branch out with your own related experience. Or you follow a thread they just gave you that you almost missed. The silence doesn't feel suffocating anymore. It's just a natural breath in the conversation. And then it keeps going. Look, you're never going to be the person who always knows exactly what to say. That person doesn't exist. And if they do, they're probably exhausting to be around. But you can be the person who's curious, who listens, who makes people feel interesting. And honestly, that's way better. So next time you're in a conversation and you feel that panic creeping in, just remember, follow the thread, branch out, loop back. The words will come. And if they don't, well, there's always, so, weather's crazy, huh? If you found this video informative, please like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.